Well, today on the Fatboy Show, let's talk about what's happening in Indonesia, where something quite shocking is happening. The parliament in Indonesia has approved a new criminal code that now bans anyone in the country from having sex outside of marriage. And that is quite interesting. Indonesia being, of course, a strict Islamic country, so it may come as no surprise, but even this sounds like they're going too far. What do you make of this, Olive, to be banning sexual activity for people who are not married? Seems a bit extreme for 2022. Wouldn't you agree?
It is extreme for 2022, but they're saying that they're trying to conserve, the Muslim,
the culture,
the Muslim religion in the country. They're saying that people are becoming a bit relaxed about religion, so they're trying to, amp things up. But then this ruling does not only serve or does not only relate to locals, even foreigners living in Indonesia, and even tourists.
And Indonesia is famous for its romantic tourist destinations.
Especially Bali.
Beaches, hotels, resorts,
yes,
forests. I mean, it's a paradise, literally. Just surrounded by the ocean. People go there to just enjoy themselves. Couples, people dating. And so now, if tourists are going to be caught in this quagmire, if they're going to be netted in operations designed to enforce this law, then what's that going to do for the tourism sector in Indonesia? It's going to destroy it.
Yeah, definitely, because it doesn't mean that every person that decides to go on a couple's retreat is married. Some people are even living together, but they're not married.
That too is also now illegal.
Yes, it is illegal. So now if you've been shacking up with someone's daughter for 5 years, it's about time you married her before you took her to Bali.
Well, they've now spoiled things for the LGBT lobby, who have been feeling emboldened by the recent drama that unfolded in the World Cup, with teams threatening to pull out if they are not allowed to wear the band that represents, the whole gay agenda, or for supporters not being allowed in the stadiums with rainbow-colored T-shirts and so forth. So they've been making a lot of noise about how supposedly they're marginalized. But now it looks like straight people in Indonesia are also going to be marginalized. The unmarried, that is.
Yeah.
Because now, in just the same way that a gay person might be arrested in Indonesia, now they'll arrest a straight person who might have sex outside of marriage.
So, yeah, now what's going to happen is that if your family member decides to report that you're living with a woman or you're living with a man that is not your husband, it's going to be an issue. And I'm thinking that for tourists, what's going to happen is that you have to prove marriage when you're, checking into a hotel. Because I've heard that in some countries, in some Muslim countries, this is what happens.
Because I heard in Dubai, is it if you, like, for example, you get pregnant, and then you go to the hospital because you're pregnant and you start seeking, let's say, antenatal or prenatal care or whatever it is, they can arrest you because they'll say, okay, so where's your husband?
I don't know about that, but what I know is that most Ugandans, when they get pregnant, they can't stay there, and then they come home and give birth.
Because they'd get in trouble.
I would think
because
that
they
it
don't
is
have a
mostly
husband.
because they do not have childcare, and assistance.
No, it's also not having a husband.
Really?
You get in trouble for that. So this is quite interesting. Now, this is a very interesting swing towards conservatism that we are seeing in Indonesia. You would think that we are in a march towards progress, and that we are becoming more liberal and more tolerant of, bodily autonomy, people being able to do whatever they want. This hard swing backward seems to have come out of nowhere. I did not see this coming.
It is a stretch, especially given the times. Now, I would understand if they were banning things like gay marriages, because there are cultures that are still stuck on, we do not accept gay marriages. I mean, even the Kremlin just ruled it out. Putin said, for as long as I'm still the leader, Russia is never ever going to agree to homosexuality or to gay marriages. But saying that people cannot have sex out of wedlock, I feel like that is a stretch, because the world moved on already from sex after marriage.
You would think. So for us here in Africa, who and I would argue that we are perhaps the most sexual people on the planet.
In as much as we still hide behind culture, we still
You know,
say, oh,
given
because
the high teenage pregnancy rates, given the high birth rates, given the high AIDS, HIV rates, people on this
vis-a-vis
continent.
the number of people married.
Yes, people in Africa like to have their sex. And so if such laws were enacted here, I wonder if we'd have prisons big enough to arrest everybody.
You know, people in Africa are having their sex because they don't have much to keep them busy.
I think so. It's idleness and it's boredom. You know,
Yes.
like you read articles about how, in Japan, like 30% of men below 30 are virgins. And it just seems so odd. Like, from a Ugandan context, it's like, how can that be?
But
Do you know what I mean?
men are busy. They have things they're doing with their minds, with their time. But here, you're going to find every year we are given high unemployment rates of young people. So if they're not
they're
employed,
idle.
what are they doing? They are engaging in sex.
We don't have nice parks and places, libraries and museums and that this is something that I've mentioned before. Like in Uganda, okay, if it comes evening time and you're like, okay, what do I do for fun? There is nothing to do.
Go to a bar.
Nothing to do besides go to a bar and drink. And yet in any other country, there's an assortment of activities you can do that will keep you occupied, that can enrich your mind and will typically not lead to sex.
And if you're dating, there are many activities you can do. That's how they can be able to date for months and they have not had sex. And you're like, really? How? Because they will go bowling and then they will go to the movies.
Yeah.
And then they will go to the gallery.
That's why in Uganda, the friend zone is very painful because you're just going to be seated with her in the bar. They are dying in your horn.
And you can't touch her. You sit with her in the movies and
But
you can't kiss her.
If you're in the friend zone in America, it's kawaii. It's like, hey, let's go to the shooting range. Let's go to the amusement park.
Yes.
Let's ride the roller coaster. Let's go
You
grab.
have so many memories. You create so many memories together whereby by the time she decides to pull you out of the friend zone, she knows you, you understand each other, you have so much in common.
Right. For us, most of the friend zoning happens in the bars. And that is why it tends to lead nowhere.
Where you're under the influence of something that will want you to have sex.
It's just terrible. But anyway, we want to know what you think about this new law in Indonesia. Do you think it's extreme? Do you think it's good for preserving their culture? Perhaps young people have gone too far. They've gone astray. They've become too liberal. There's too much sex outside of marriage, and this is leading to social decay. And perhaps you might agree that such harsh measures need to be implemented, and not just in Indonesia. Perhaps we need them in Uganda too. What are your thoughts on that? You can go to our Twitter or Facebook and leave your comment there. Or if you'd like, you can join us in conversation here. You can reach out to us through the RX Radio app and have a conversation with us here on this very interesting issue. Do we have a caller?
Hello.
Hey.
Hi.
How are you doing?
I'm good.
Is this Mr. Mauricio?
Yeah, this is Mauricio.
Oh, Mauricio, how are you today?
Okay, Fatboy. How are you doing?
Good. I bet they would arrest you.
Hi, Mauricio.
Hi, how are you?
I'm good. Do you have plans whatsoever of going to Indonesia?
Indonesia? No.
So you don't want to take your girlfriend, because you're always telling us about your girlfriend. You don't want to take her to Bali?
They'd be arrested.
Let's go to some other place.
Yeah, so do you think this law is extreme, though, that they've just passed there in Indonesia?
Okay, as a Muslim country, I don't think they're true. They are being too extreme. I think on the other side, they are just trying to preserve the culture and the religion, because we get to see this thing happening in countries nowadays. Countries are trying, because of the Western influence and everything. So countries are trying to go back to the old ways. If we're giving you this too much freedom, let's try to go back to the roots. So yeah, it sounds harsh, but I think with time
it is harsh.
Yeah.
It is harsh.
Very
And,
harsh.
Don't you think that the train has already moved from the station? I mean, the train where you have to tell people you cannot have sex before marriage, or else you're going to serve a year in jail or 6 months. I feel like that is extreme.
These things have really been there. If you look at the Muslims, it is always very good to have sex. and it's always good to have sex until you're married. So having such laws in place shouldn't really be harsh, because if you really look at some of the Muslim countries, okay, maybe the ones that really do go by the laws, as Muslims, you're always encouraged to have sex until you're married.
Wait. As Muslims, you're encouraged to what? To not have sex.
Yeah, sorry. Yeah, not to have sex until you're married. Yeah, sorry about that.
Right.
Okay, so what I mean, in countries where there is the Sharia law, it's understandable. Countries like Saudi Arabia, but if your country has already been on the law, like they were relaxed about it, and then suddenly they remember, oh, we need to go back to where we used to be. Is it practical?
Okay, well, it wouldn't sound practical, but I guess if they're really going back to what they think is right for the young people, and to avoid all these kinds of circumstances that really happen, unplanned pregnancies, and whatsoever, spreading such infections, whatever, I think they are right. I know it's going to affect a lot of people, and something that people are not used to, and but I guess going forward, it's really a good deal.
Okay.
All right.
Yeah.
Well, thanks a lot, Mauricio, and do take care and enjoy yourself.
All right, thank you so much.
All right, bye. Well, let's keep the conversation going. You can continue posting your comments to our Twitter or Facebook. Now we are also on YouTube, by the way, so this segment will probably be posted there. Also, you can check it out and then share it with your friends. And if you'd like, you can leave comments there too. Did I mention, by the way, we are also now on TikTok. On both TikTok or Facebook, our handle is at RX Radio. So please follow us and subscribe and continue to get the full glory of RX Radio in all its forms.